Okay, so UFC 311 is finally here, the first pay-per-view of 2025. It's going to be coming this Saturday night. And we're going to be going through and predicting and breaking down every single fight on this card. Surprisingly, it is a stacked card, which is a lot better than the past weekend, because that was an awful card. But this one has a good 5 or 6 fights on it that could have been easily a main event on a fight night card in other times. So we're going to get right into it and review the first fight. Okay, so the first fight of the night is going to be the first fight for the Dagestanis. We've got Jiri Prochazka versus Clayton Carpenter. So, Jiri is older and he is also taller. He's listed at 5'7". If you've seen images of this man, if you've seen him fight, he is a lot taller than 5'7" personally. He's like the same height as Islam Makhachev. And you're talking Islam Makhachev is listed at 5'10". So I don't know how they've got 5'7", but that's fine. The odds are in Ulanbekov's favour, and he has submitted Cody Durden, which is a good win since Durden is good on the ground. Carpenter has got 2 wins also by submission. I think both were by rear naked choke. I think Cody Durden for Ulanbekov was also by rear naked choke. My prediction for this fight is going to be a number 1 win for the Dagestanis, because I think they're going to cancel each other out in their wrestling scrambles, and I think it's going to go to who's better on the feet. And I think Ulanbekov is a lot better when it comes to striking than Clayton Carpenter is. So I do think Ulanbekov is going to get the first win for the Dagestanis tonight. Okay, so fight 2 is going to be between Ricky Turcio and Bernardo Sapai. So, Bernardo Sapai, he's coming off of a loss to Vinicius Oliveira. It wasn't a bad debut. He was doing quite well on the feet, keeping up with Vinicius Oliveira, and I actually gave him round 1. I thought he did really well. He was outstriking him for a good portion of the fight. It was a very close, entertaining fight in round 3. Vinicius Oliveira kept Sapai against the cage. That's where he sat there and he's rocked him. Sapai's created distance, and Vinicius Oliveira was running, jumping lead, and it was probably one of the knockouts of the year. Ricky Turcios, so he got submitted by Raul Roses Jr. in his comeback after he lost. So, for me, I'm gonna go with Sapai. I think he just looked better. I think that Vinicius Oliveira win, it has aged quite well. I think the bookies are correct with their prediction. I think Turcios he's one of them where you can't say that he's going to do good or he's going to do bad. In his debut, he looked amazing. He landed over 100 shots and he looked promising. And then in his next fight, he landed 23 shots out of 250 thrown. So, for me, I think Sapai is going to be the better striker. I think he's able to keep it on the feet. I think he'll dominate Ricky Turcio in this fight. I do think this fight's going to be a very good comeback win for Bernardo Sapai. Okay, so fight 3 is going to be the return of Rinya Nakamura, who was on a 3-fight win streak. So, 3 of the fights, 2 of them are by unanimous decision, and 1 of them is by a TKO. So he did have great success before coming to the UFC with his knockouts. I think he had 6 knockouts before the UFC. So 6-0, 6 knockouts. From there, he now has, I'm pretty sure it's 7 out of 9 or 6 out of 9 fights are still knockouts. So he has power, but in the last 2 fights, he's been struggling to find it. He's been more so wrestling, controlling, and just getting the victories on the judges' scorecards. I don't think that's going to be something you're going to be able to do with Gafurov. I think he's going to try to push the pace, he's going to try to come forwards, and he's going to try to wrestle and scramble against you. And I think Nakamura has 20 plus years of experience in wrestling. He should be able to deal with it. And I think it's a do or die fight for him, because if he's not able to deal with it, then something has to change. And if he can't finish Gafurov, then same thing, something has to change. Multiple people have been hurting Gafurov on early prelim fights. If you're not able to finish a fighter on an early prelim, then there is something definitely going wrong within the game plan. With all that said, though, I am talking a lot about Nakamura because I think he is the favourite by a long shot. I don't think Gaforov is going to have a chance in this fight. I think Nakamura is the better wrestler. I think he's going to be able to control the scrambles. He's going to knock him out. But he just needs to show it, because in his previous fights he hasn't been. And that's where the problems have been aligned with a lot of people. So he kind of lost some of that hype that he did have when he came into the UFC. So he just needs to regain it by a big knockout personally. And then he might be able to move up. You never know, he might fight on prelims or even a main card on a fight night. Okay, so fight 4 is going to be Eileen Perez versus Carol Rosa, the first and the only women fight on this whole card. So, as I was saying, do not bet against Brazilian women. Today I am going to break that, because this weekend I do think Eileen Perez is going to get the victory. And I think that's saying it's good, because Brazilian women usually do kick ass. But if you look at the past weekend where Dern submitted bloody Rebus, then it just doesn't work. I think Brazilian women are very strong, but I think there's certain people who beat them. For this one, I do think Eileen Perez is going to beat her. She's the underdog, and I think that's surprising, since she has got 4 wins in a row. They're the same height, and I don't see a way Carol Rosa beats her. I do think Eileen Perez is very good on the ground in the grappling. She's strong for the weight class, and when she's not, when she's on her feet, she's very good at picking her opponent apart, specifically with a knee. She's amazing when it comes to landing the knee. So I do see Perez winning, and I think it's going to be by unanimous decision. So fight 5 is going to be Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. There is a decade in age between these two. So both fighters are coming off of a 2-fight win streak. Ferreira's definitely the more impressive. That Rebecca win seriously has aged well after he beat Miktek Orably. So I do think that win has aged very well. The problem with it is that Ferreira's putting in performances of a lifetime at the moment, where he's probably performing the best he has done in a long time. But he is 40. At some time that is going to crack. That is probably why the odds are in Grant Dawson's favour. Grant Dawson has lost right to Bobby Green by TKO as well. And Diego Ferreira has definitely more power than Bobby Green. So this one is a lot closer than the bookies are giving it. But I don't think they're giving it to Diego Ferreira due to his age. Both fighters are good grapplers though. Like Diego Ferreira, he was even submitted when it came to Gamrot. Gamrot had to stand on his feet and go into clinches and different groundwork there. He couldn't submit him. And if Gamrot's not getting the submission, I really do doubt Grant Dawson's going to get the decision. Grant Dawson's going to get the submission. So, but he did look good against Rafa Garcia getting the TKO. And he did look good in the ground exchanges whilst fighting Joe Solecki. Because Joe Solecki's no slouch either. But I do think it's going to be a close fight. I'm going to lean towards Grant Dawson. And I think he's going to get the win. And I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a split decision, 29-28. Okay, so fight 6 is going to be Zach Reese versus Cedric Dumas. So for this fight, Cedric Dumas is the shorter opponent. He's also the underdog. Zach Reese is taller, and he is coming off of a 2-fight win streak. A lot of people counted Zach Reese out after he got slammed by Cody Brundage and then finished. From there, he has came back and he's starting to prove himself again. So, I do think he looks good. I think his striking and his grappling is a lot better than Cedric Dumas. And I think if you're Cedric Dumas and you're not looking impressive against Dennis Talulin, then I think there is a problem. And I don't think Cedric Dumas has looked impressive against any one of his fights, any one of his wins. So I am going to pick Zach Reese by knockout. I think he's going to catch Cedric Dumas when Dumas is going in. I just think Zach Reese has too much power for Dumas. I don't think he's going to be able to beat him. I think he's going to lose in scramble exchanges. So I'm going to favour Zach Reese on this one. Okay, so fight 7's going to be Jolton Almeida versus Sergey Spivak. I think this is a very good heavyweight fight. I think Jolton Almeida, I do rate him a lot. I think he is one of the heavyweights who doesn't just rely on their weight or their power. He is very technical when it comes to his grappling, especially his jiu-jitsu. He is on a one-fight win streak after submitting Alexander Romanov, and he also has beat Derek Lewis and Rosenstrike. Of course, he didn't submit Derek Lewis because he doesn't believe in jiu-jitsu. But yeah, he did look good against Curtis Blades as well. I thought he looked very good against Curtis Blades. He wasn't doing too bad on the grapples. He wasn't doing too bad with the striking. He was keeping up there, and I think he is one of the higher end heavyweights that there is at the moment. Sergey Spivak is also very good. He's coming off of a submission victory against Martin Tybura. Tybura is a very good heavyweight. Right, he is a very good finisher, and people don't talk about it enough. He's also got wins over Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa. So both of these are very, very decorated heavyweights who have beat some of the better ones in this generation. Don't get me wrong, the heavyweights of this generation are amazing. I think if a lot of light heavyweights moved up, they would beat them. And I think Jolton Almeida, he came from middleweight, so he has got that smaller man skill level. And I do think he submits Sergey Spivak. I'd love to see some ground and pound. I'd love to see some striking on the feet from Almeida, so he's not a one-trick pony. But one-trick ponies can get far in the UFC. Look at Alex Pereira. He's one-trick pony kickboxing all the way to 2 division titles, and probably one of the most decorated careers. Almeida could do the same with his jiu-jitsu. Because let's face it, if Almeida fought Cyril Gane, Almeida's submitting Cyril Gane. That's the thing. So, everyone's on about the heavyweights of Tom, you might have to fight Gane or Volkov. I think Almeida's in there. I think he beats Blades for their rematch. I think he beats Gane. I think he might struggle against the range of Volkov, and I think he struggles against Tom Aspinall. Other than that, I think Almeida does beat a lot of the heavyweights. With that, I do favour Almeida to get the job done against Spivak, and I do think he gets it done by submission. Okay, so fight 8 is going to kick off with Peyton Talbot versus Raoni Barcelos. This fight is the biggest odds in favour of Peyton Talbot that there has been this year. So, Peyton Talbot is coming on a 3-win streak within the UFC, 2 wins by knockout and 1 by submission. Before that, he also got a knockout on Contender Series, and before that, he also had 3 wins within Uriah Faber's A1 Series. The reason these odds are so high in Talbot's favour is that Barcelos hasn't looked good since pre-2020. He hasn't looked good since COVID. Right. Since then, he has lost a lot more than anyone should have if they're in the UFC. And his last win, he did not look that good in it. I don't see him getting a submission against Peyton Talbot. And he's getting on. He's a little bit too old for these lighter divisions now. The lighter divisions are for the younger men a lot of the time. Right? You're not going to get a very old champion within the younger divisions. Personally, to me, I'd love to see Peyton Talbot against someone either top 15 ranked or who has a bigger name. You could always make him against bloody Cody Garbrandt. I understand that's not a nice one to do because everyone loves Cody Garbrandt. I love Cody Garbrandt. But the thing is, it's how you make a name for the younger opponents, right? Everyone always complains that people are feeding these older people with names to the younger opponents. That's how business is done. Right. Peyton Talbot needs fans. He's going to get the fans and the watchers. And people are going to start liking his style if they watch him beat somebody. And Cody Garbrandt is known for his striking. Right. So when Peyton Talbot walks forward with this awkward style, Garbrandt could catch him and get some excitement. You might see Peyton Talbot actually go through some adversity in one of these matchups. So I do think that's the case. And I think it's a good idea to do. Everyone is shitting on all these different ideas of the older fighters against the younger fighters. It works. You look at Anderson Silva when he fought Israel Adesanya. Everyone started talking about Adesanya so much more after that win because he beat Anderson Silva. It's the same case with everyone. Everyone wants to watch the older people fight, but they don't want to watch them lose. But the case is the younger fighter's going to win a lot of the time, and it builds people's career. So I think that's what we do. After this fight, Payton Talbot wins, make him against Cody, then put him against a top 15 opponent. That's what I would do. Okay, so fight 9 is going to be Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Elakana. So Elakana steps in on short notice with a UFC debut bout versus Bogdan Guskov. I mean, what are we doing here? Bogdan Guskov is dangerous. He has an 88% knockout ratio, knocking out the 2 fighters he's fought in the UFC so far. And we're giving someone a debut shot against him. He's also ranked number 13. And, I think it's really unfair. I think if he fought Johnny Walker, he would have killed him. Johnny Walker hasn't got a chin anymore. He's been knocked out 5 times. Guskov would have knocked him out. The same case is going to happen right now. Guskov is going to knock out Billy Elakana. It's going to be a very, very bad way to start your UFC career. Elakana has fought in the PFL and the LFA, and he has went 7-1 in his whole career coming to the UFC. But it's just a fact of he's been given a shot against a very dangerous light heavyweight. Guskov's only loss is to Volkan Ozdemir. From there, he has fought Ryan Spann. He did have some adversity within that fight. Ryan Spann taking him down and controlling him for a good portion of round 1. He also got hit with a lot of shots. He's very open when it comes to a right overhand. Guskov his guard seems to be quite low with that lead hand. For me, I think Guskov's going to win. I think it's going to be a knockout win, and I think that's a safe bet. I think it's a very safe bet to pull on that Bogdan Guskov wins this fight by knockout or TKO, because I can't see it going any other way. I don't know a whole lot about Billy Elakana. I don't believe anyone really will, unless you're so into it that you're watching tons and tons on the LFA and PFL. I haven't really got a lot of knowledge on how good Billy Elakana is. I just doubt somebody on their debut is going to be able to beat the likes of Bogdan Guskov. So, that's the only thing I could really say about it. So, fight 10 is going to be Kevin Holland versus Reiner de Ridder. Personally, to me, I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going to go Reiner de Ridder with the victory. I think he has got a height advantage. It's not by a whole lot, but I also think he is a better fighter. I think Kevin Holland is very good. His striking is very competent. He knows what he's doing. He has good striking battles with a lot of people. The Roman Dolidze fight, I think it's just, he's on about that he broke his rib in, November, October? And he's fighting again in January. I just don't see how someone who broke a rib at the end of last year is fighting at the very start of this year again. I think he's over-exaggerated how injured he actually was in that fight. But Reiner de Ridder, though, in his last fight, beating Gerald Meerschaert by submission. It's a very impressive UFC debut. Meerschaert is very good on the grappling exchanges and on the ground, so to beat him by submission is impressive. Reiner de Ridder, he had some adversity where he was on his back. He wasn't winning some of the trades. He has this awkward style. A lot of people are trying to say that it's kind of like Duplessis, where it's kind of like just Driscoll style, because his striking isn't amazing. He hasn't got this normal technical style. He's kind of got a weird striking style where he just walks forwards and he strikes from all different angles and he kind of just falls onto you and gets you into a weird position where he's able to submit you. But I think it works, and I think it's going to work against Kevin Holland. I think Holland's good, but I just don't see him getting anywhere near a belt. And I just find it weird. He changes his weight constantly. He's constantly shifting from welterweight to middleweight to welterweight. And I just don't think that's good for a fighter to do that. I think you should stay at one weight for a good amount of time. Like, he did good. Hamzat Chimaev choked him out very early, and he dominated him from very early. But Kevin Holland at least tried to block some of them takedowns. I don't think he's going to be able to do it against Ryan Derrida. I think he's just going to get took down quite quickly. And I think Derrida's going to have his way with him on the ground. But I don't see the fight getting finished. I do think the fight is going to go to a decision. And I think Ryan Derrida's going to do enough to win the scorecards. And that's about it. I don't think this fight's going to be like a breakout fight. But it is being hyped up as a breakout fight for Ryan Derrida. He's been given the big name. And then, what's next? Him fighting on the Apex, headlining it against somebody just outside of top 15 or something. Right. I think he's good. But, if you're a 2x1 champion, I would have expected a little bit more. Expected something better, personally. So, but we'll just have to see how good he does. But, yeah, I do think he beats Kevin Holland. Okay, so, on to fight 11. Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. I couldn't believe that these two are the same age, because one of them really is showing of their age, Beneil Dariush showing of his age, and Moicano seems to be on the form of his life at the moment. So, I just find it weird. You asked me a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, who wins this? I would have said Dariush. Since then, Dariush just hasn't been looking too good. He lost very convincingly to Tsarukyan and to Charles Oliveira. And the sad thing is, I think he's going to lose the exact same way. I think he's going to lose by TKO or KO by Renato Moicano. I mean, he has been on a tear recently. That Benoit Saint Denis fight, for me, genuinely, was hard to watch. Watching Saint Denis' face open up constantly, because Moicano's on top mount, just beating him. Right. It was an entertaining fight, but it got to a point where it's hard to watch. Right. Doctor stoppage after one round. Right. That's insane. Moicano is very good. I didn't think he was 35. I always forget that he's 35. I always think he's younger. I would have loved to see him fight someone a little bit better, if I'm being honest. I understand Dariush is he used to be a good fighter. I would have preferred to see him fight someone a little bit better. There is people there for him to fight. So, Moicano's ranked 10th at the moment. Dariush is ranked 9th. I would prefer to see a Paddy Pimblett Moicano fight because there's a storyline there. Moicano also could have waited to see if he could have got a better fight, personally. I just don't think Dariush is a good fight. I think if Dariush loses this weekend, I think it might be time for him to retire, personally. I just don't see a way Dariush wins. I don't think he's going to outstrike him. He's not going to win the grappling exchanges. I don't know. I was going to say I think Moicano is going to win by TKO, but I also don't think he will. I think it might be a decision win. No, I'm going to stick to the guns. Moicano is going to finish Dariush, and it's going to be a TKO. That's what I would have. Right. I just don't think Dariush is going to be able to hang. He's had way too many. He has had a lot more injuries than Moicano has. Very showing of his age. Moicano's not. Same age, but he's improving. So my bet's going to be with Moicano. Nowhere near Dariush. So fight 11 is going to be Jiri Prochazka versus Jamahal Hill. So, I mean, this fight has lost a lot of hype, especially since both are coming off of Alex Pereira knockouts. Jiri Prochazka obviously has got knocked out 2 times now by Alex Pereira. The first one, people made the case for it being early, came back, beat Rakic, got another shot, got knocked out by a head kick. Jamahal Hill got knocked out with that left hook that seems to get everyone. The odds for this fight, bang on even. Personally, to me, I'm going to lean more so towards Jiri Prochazka, and there's a couple reasons. So, first off, in Jamahal Hill's favour, he is bigger. So he is bigger than Jiri Prochazka. He's going to probably weigh in a little bit heavier as well on the day. He's going to be a big size difference. Yuri's quite a small bloke. He said he wants to try and move down to middleweight. He's quite a small, light heavyweight person. I don't think he's big enough. So I think he could make middle. So the things with this fight, though, both of them attacking, amazing. Their offense is brilliant. Jiri Prochazka has an insane knockout record. Jamahal Hill has a lot of power within his boxing. Both are very good. Jamahal Hill doesn't throw as much kicks as Jiri Prochazka. Jiri Prochazka kind of switches it up a little bit more with his kicks, knees, and elbows. So I do think Yuri's offense is a bit better. Defensively, they're both awful. Jiri Prochazka, there's been so many memes and videos of him recently that's being made because he just looks like he's trying to block the punches with his face. He's doing so much head movement where I don't know why he's doing so much head movement. He's not blocking or moving away from anything. He's just coming in and he's shifting his head constantly, and there's no need for it. Jamahal Hill fights a lot of the time with it's his left hand, isn't it? With his left hand down, and I don't know why. A lot of the time. So both of them defensively aren't amazing, if I'm being honest. So that is why they both lost Alex. They both tried to go offense constantly, and Alex just caught them. So for this one, I'm going to lean towards Jiri. I think his striking is just a little bit better. I think defensively, they're both just as bad as each other, personally. I think Jamal's defense is going to be a little bit better than Yuri's. I think they're both decent on the ground, but neither one of them wanted to use that against Alex because everyone wants to try to prove that the best striker in the division when it's clearly not these two. They're high up in there, they're good strikers, but you're not the best strikers. So at the moment, this is kind of a fight for second or a fight for third, because then you throw in Ankalaev into the mix as well. So I ain't got a clue. I think Jiri wins. The odds are straight even, and it's basically 50-50 between fans as well. I think the main thing that sets these two apart, though, which I think is going to lend in Yuri's favour, is mentality. Jiri lost. Yeah, he accepted it. He went back to training instantly. He's doing all these different things to improve himself. Jamahal Hill lost, and he starts blaming everyone. He blames the referee. Oh, you shouldn't have stopped the fight. You should have, separated us further. He starts blaming all the fans. He starts blaming everyone. He starts talking shit all over social media. And then he goes up to Alex Pereira, tries to have a square off against him. Alex asks him to spar, and Jamal goes, nah, not my gloves. I'm not going to wear some sweaty other people's gloves. I mean, come on, man. Right, I think Jamal's good, but I think he's lost so much credit because of it. Like, take your losses in stride, right? Take it with a pinch of salt. You lost. Improve on yourself. Don't sit there and make shite tons of excuses. Then don't sit there and try to have a confrontation and make yourself look bad. And I'm trying to be 50-50 because I really like Jiri Prochazka. He's one of my favourite fighters. And I think Jamahal Hill is one of the most disliked fighters because of his attitude recently. So I ain't got a clue. I'm going to go Jiri Prochazka. I don't know, it could be a TKO's the thing. He hasn't got that power that Alex Pereira has, but he has this weird striking style where I can see him landing an elbow, or I can see him landing a knee out of nowhere. Jamahal Hill obviously has got better boxing, so I do see Jamahal Hill might be able to catch Jiri when he's coming in with a left hook. But I think Jiri's just going to win, so I'm going to go TKO victory for Jiri Prochazka. So, fight 13 is going to be Merab Dvalishvili versus Umar Nurmagomedov. And I'm actually shocked with how many people are saying it's so one-sided. A lot of people are picking Umar. I haven't seen a single person so far pick Merab. And I think that's insane. Like, Merab schooled Sean O'Malley. Yeah, Sean O'Malley had some good parts in that fight. He won the later rounds, but Merab looked good. Merab has done the exact same thing to every single person he's fought. To Sean, to Henry Cejudo, to Peter Yan, and to Jose Aldo. He's done it to every single person. Every single time, he just goes for the takedowns. He goes for the smothers. His striking isn't too bad either. He's got this pendulum style where he comes in and out. He's not too bad. But everyone's siding with Umar, and I can see why. Umar is depicted as this person who is designed to beat Merab. You know, he's one of the Nurmagomedov families. He's from Dagestani. He's trained grappling all his life. He's never going to get taken down by Merab. But I think he does. I think this fight is a lot closer than people are trying to make it out to be. I don't think Umar 50-45 to Merab. I think it's going to be a 47-46. Right. I think it's going to be very close. I think it's going to be a 48-47. It's going to be a very close fight. People aren't understanding that. It's going to be a very close one. Umar looked good against Corey Sandhagen. I'm getting annoyed with the amount of people who said he outstruck him. Corey Sandhagen is a better striker than Umar Nurmagomedov. Final. Umar beat him on that night with striking the same way Khabib beat Conor with striking. Right? The Nurmagomedovs and the Dagestanis, their main asset is their wrestling. So everyone trains to counter their wrestling. So if you watched Corey, he reacted a lot. Every time Umar went in, that little level change, it got Corey reacting. That's the reason he beat him on the striking. Corey wasn't reacting to striking, he was reacting to the wrestling. Because he knows that the Dagestanis set their wrestling up with their striking. Then, after grappling you for so long, you're knackered trying to fight out of it. Then you're knackered. Your strikes aren't going to be as fast or as strong as you want them to be. That's their game plan. That's how they win. It's how Merab wins a lot of his fights as well. He wrestles. People get knackered. Their striking isn't as good afterwards. But that's how Umar beats Corey Sandhagen. I understand it was a very convincing fight. I love Corey Sandhagen. I was watching that fight and I was annoyed about it. But it happens. But are we really going to go, Umar is that good after beating Corey Sandhagen that way, that he's good enough to beat Merab Dvalishvili, who is undoubtedly, at this point, the bantamweight GOAT. I mean, look at the people he's beat. He's beat Jose Aldo. Yes, he did amazing at stopping them takedowns. Right, but he still beat him by decision. He beat Peter Yan, same case. Peter Yan did really well. Peter Yan's a good wrestler, he's a good striker. He's a good mix of the two. Still beat him by decision. He beat Henry Cejudo. Henry Cejudo's a gold medalist wrestler. Right. So Henry Cejudo's a brilliant fighter as well. Are we really going to sit here and say that Umar is better than everyone Merab's ever fought? Well, I don't think he is. I think it's very close. I mean, with all this, I'm not shitting on Umar. Umar is my pick. I think Umar beats Merab. But I think it's a very close 48-47 decision to Umar. I don't think Umar finishes him. I don't think Merab finishes him. I think it's a lot closer than what people are making it out to be. I think Umar's going to stop the takedowns and get a couple strikes in and win the rounds. And that's just going to be when Merab tries to take him down and get a couple strikes in when he's on the ground or when he's trying to get back up. So I am going to go with Umar, but it's going to be a very close decision. I don't think it's just going to be this dominant performance that everyone's making it out to be. I think he's going to be very close. Okay, so fight 14 and the last fight of the card is going to be between Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan. Again, just like the co-main, a lot of people are making this out like Islam's going to run through Arman Tsarukyan. Tsarukyan looked good against Oliveira. He had very good striking. He outstruck Oliveira for a lot of the fight. On the ground, he didn't do too bad. And yes, in round 3, he was in a very bad position. Right. And I think Oliveira, if he tried a bit harder, he could have got the finish in that fight. Arman came away, he won. Arman's a good fighter. right? He has very good striking. The reason why a lot of people are saying Islam's going to run for him, right? Islam's striking is very good. He has got good striking. Very good striking for a Dagestani. You don't see Dagestanis having good striking often. Islam's very well rounded. That his fight with Poirier shows you a lot. It shows you a couple of things. One, it goes in Arman's favour. Arman's the younger man, and he's probably a better striker at the moment than Dustin Poirier is. But it also shows you, because Islam did good against Dustin Poirier striking. He did good with it. He also did good with his grappling and mixing it up. It was probably one of Islam's harder fights. That and Volkanovski #1. Right, but the Poirier one, we got to see Islam striking more as a whole, rather than the Volkanovski one, because that one was more, it was more wall fighting and grappling exchanges, and that's where they got the little shots from. There wasn't much standing in the open, going forward, trying to land shots. For this fight, I'm going to go with Islam Makhachev, purely because of experience. I think Islam's going to have more experience. He's going to know what he's going to be doing. Right? He's beat a lot of people. He's beat Poirier. He's beat Arman before. He's beat Hooker. He's beat Charles. He beat Volkanovski twice. Right? He has an amazing resume. He's the bigger man, the more experienced man. He has Khabib in his corner. Right? He has a very good coach. You talk about it. The Dagestanis are taking over. As much as everyone doesn't want to admit it, Dagestanis are taking over. As soon as if Umar beats Merab, Islam beats Arman, you've got two champions then. Bilal was trained by Khabib for a very long time. So currently he's got 3 champions in his mix. That's the thing. So I think the Dagestanis, the wrestlers, they are taking over the sport. I do think Islam retains this fight, retains his belt. I think he beats the Arman. Arman's looking big, man. I don't know if you've seen photos. Arman looks juiced. Right? It's that post-USADA era that everyone's on about, but Arman looks big. I think he's going to be trouble on the feet. I think he has better kicks than Islam. But I think Islam's going to be able to mix it up a lot better than anyone Arman Tsarukyan has fought. Outside of Charles Oliveira, another good one he has is Beneil Dariush. Which, I mean, like I said earlier, Beneil Dariush hasn't looked good for a long time, really. He hasn't been doing as much as he hasn't been good. He hasn't been as good as he was. So this fight, I'm going to lean more so towards Islam Makhachev for the win. I don't know which way he's going to do it. I think it could either be a submission stop. So I say submission. Oliveira couldn't get Arman out, and Oliveira is one of the best submission artists in the game. But then Islam submitted Oliveira. I don't know. I think it's either going to be. I think it's going to be an Islam Makhachev finish. I don't think this fight reaches the final bells, personally. I think it will be a finish, and I think Islam's going to retain the belt, and I think it's going to be either a submission or even a TKO. I could see him knock him out as well. But I'm going to side with the Dagestanis on this one as well.